Flopsy, and she never called me mother. Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Stench of Truth. Let's take a good look at John McCain, the Manchurian candidate, the one that everyone should love to hate. There are a lot of Vietnam veterans and a lot of former POWs who are arrayed against John McCain. Methinks he does protest too much, especially when there are so many people who are coming out against him and who have vocalized their concerns about John McCain for many, many years. As for collaborating with the enemy while he was a prisoner in North Vietnam, one could make the argument that collaboration may in fact be necessary at times in order to prevent your own death. And most people can agree that that is an acceptable scenario, including myself. But whenever the North Vietnamese referred to John McCain as the songbird because he was so willing and eager to share information, and not only share information that would keep him alive, but share information that would make his life a little bit more pleasant while he was in captivity. That's the problem that POWs have with John McCain. It's not necessarily that he gave information to the enemy, it's the purposes to which that information was used and the thoughts in John McCain's head whenever he gave that information to the enemy, in that he wanted to use it for his own betterment, to make his life a little bit more comfortable while he was in captivity. That's the rub. So is John McCain a traitor? I don't know. But I sure wonder what would happen with U.S. and Vietnam relations when he gets into president, if he were to win the election. I shudder to think what might happen. One other thing that is absolutely certain about John McCain is that his experiences as a pilot were atrocious. He wrecked several of his planes, he was shot down, and he was also involved in one of the worst naval accidents in history. I think it might have been the worst U.S. Navy accident in history. While supposedly not to blame himself, he nonetheless was involved when 130 people died because of a misfired missile. He had a pitiful flying record. Everybody knows that McCain wanted to be an admiral like his father and like his grandfather, and he parlayed that, according to the people who are arrayed against him, he parlayed the fact that his father was an admiral in order to get himself a little bit more of a cushy situation while he was a prisoner of war. He just didn't have the right stuff to make it. And all you have to do is look at some other aspects of his life to see why. He's very hot-headed. He has a horrible temper. And he has been known to cheat on his wives with many, many women. So let's remember that cheating on your wife and being immoral in that sense is not something that is entirely the Democrats' purview. Another thing that you can say about John McCain with absolute conviction is that he was, if not the most vocal critic of POW MIA activities in Congress, he was certainly in the tops in that regard. And there are many people who are very, very pissed at John McCain because of his actions while he was in Congress whenever there were attempts to have hearings on POWs and MIAs possibly being in Vietnam after the war was over and after the so-called final release of prisoners of war by the North Vietnamese. And I can say that by looking into this, that I'm convinced that he was a stumbling block. And it just doesn't make any sense to me. Why would he oppose any efforts that would look into this? But John McCain denied then, and I'm sure still denies now, that any POWs or MIAs were still being kept prisoner in North Vietnam after the so-called final release of prisoners took place. He denies it, even though there's plenty of evidence that that is not the case. Why would he deny it? Why would he be so against it? And why would he be such a vocal critic? The only explanation, the only one that makes any sense, is if he feared something coming out about him. Is if he shone a light onto North Vietnam, they might be the ones that would release information that they have about him and all of the things that he did for them while he was a prisoner of war. And I think that is a very distinct possibility, including perhaps as many as 30 videotapes that he put together denouncing the United States, not to mention whatever other information that he gave to the North Vietnamese in order to help them frustrate our efforts in our war with them, and possibly even some other national security information that could even have implications today. We just don't know. But one thing we do know is that the POW-MIA issue suffered a horrible blow because of John McCain. So, John McCain, traitor? I don't know. But John McCain, president? I sure as hell hope not. Because with a man with his record, and a man with his past, and a man with all the baggage that he has, being in the most powerful office in the world, that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing at all.